Predecessor is a game. More specifically, Predecessor is a game that rewards its players for maximizing the use of their cerebral cortex to find cheeky ways to outsmart and outplay their opponents. This, to me, is one of the things that gives Predecessor so much replayability. There's a lot of ways players can get an edge up on their opponent. One of the bigger ones that we're going to talk about today, specifically, is going to be counterpicking and building. This guide is going to walk you through the fundamentals of how to counter whatever your opponent may throw at you. From the pre-draft lobby to the end of the game, you can win before the match even starts by keeping these tips in the back of your head going into your next ranked game. So let's not waste any time and drop right into the sauce. If you do find the video helpful, please do the typical YouTube shebang and hit me with the like and sub. Also, link to the Discord will be below if you have any questions or want to play a game with me personally. So I want to start by quickly going over the basics of your sub role to better encompass the overall scheme of counterplay, because especially in the lower ranks, I see a lot of people making very easily avoidable mistakes that could help solve a lot of frustrations that I see them run into. A sub role, for those of you that don't know, is a piece of bread. It's basically just the category of playstyle that your hero represents. These sub-roles are present in a lot of other hero shooter type games in the tank or frontline, the support or healers, and the damage dealers or mages. They each have inherent strengths and weaknesses that make them better suited towards certain roles or playstyles. Starting with tanks or frontliners, these heroes are designed to absorb damage, start fights, and lock down the enemy. They also have very high health pools, good armor scaling, but lack the damage scaling, so you get much less value out of building them with damage items. Some great examples of quality frontlines are going to be Steel, Richter, Rampage, and Sevarog. Then touching on the support or healer class, these are heroes that are going to serve as a vital backbone to any team. And although it's not the flashiest role, a good support can easily change the course of a game because these are heroes that have more utility built into their kit, and it's centered around buffing, healing, stunning, silencing, or any other means of, well, supporting your team. These heroes can often have a variety of scaling options, so builds and synergies can vary a lot, but some quality all-around examples are FaZe, Narbash, Zinx, and Muriel. And then lastly, there's the damage dealers, which can be broken down even more into certain playstyles, such as an assassin, ADC or carry, and the mages. They all share some commonalities though, in that they all have very high scaling for their respective damage type, but have very little armor and health scaling. So proper positioning and coordination with these heroes is essential, and you're always going to be wanting to look for opportunities that your frontline or support can open up for you. Some good examples of these heroes are Kalari, Countess, Murdoch, Drongo, Gideon, etc. Now to be clear, these heroes do not share the same in-game role as an off-lane, mid-lane, carry, etc. And each can flex into a few different roles depending on some other situations that we're going to be covering later. So basically you need to understand this trio of a team composition in order to better decide what your team needs, which is going to lead me into my next point, the pre-game lobby. There's a famous saying in the MOBA community in that many games are won and lost just in the draft screen. This remains true even in Predecessor. This is why the sub-roles that we just talked about are so important, because if you get a higher spot on the pick order and draft, you likely won't know what hero you're going to end up facing yet. So I'm going to go over each role here and give some tips on what you should be looking for and expecting in each role to help you make a better decision if you don't know who you're going to be facing yet. Starting with the jungle, this can be basically any melee hero in the game, and I want to put an emphasis on melee hero because the Jungle Nice passive, which gives you health and mana on each jungle minion hit, doesn't work with ranged heroes. So you're just gonna die to jungle camps if you try and jungle with a ranged hero. Yin is the only exception to this rule. Exactly which hero you pick here is gonna depend on what your overall team comp looks like. If it looks something like this, you're probably going to want to pick a tankier hero with some good CC, like Rampage, so your team doesn't get shredded in 3 abilities late game. While if it looks something like this, you're likely fine picking someone with a little more damage like Seraph or Fang Mao. If your team is asleep at the wheel though, not soft locking their picks, and you don't know who they're going to go with, you're likely better off picking a bruiser style hero who can be built both tanky but still do decent damage. Zarus is a good example here. One more quick tip here is once you find out who your opponent is in the loading screen, plan accordingly. As in if it's somebody like Sevarog, plan on invading and disrupting his farm early. This is going to set you up for the rest of the game, while if it's somebody like Chimera, expect him to be constantly invading and ready to bounce if he shows up, because he's most likely going to win basically any early game 1v1. And moving on to the supports, like with every role, your hero choice here is going to depend on what the rest of your team picks. But you're almost always going to do well with somebody like Narbash, FaZe, or Decker, who are purpose-built to provide support for your team in most situations. Boasting a mix of CC, team buffs, and utility, you can't go wrong with picking them in almost any situation. Alternatively, you could pick a tankier, CC-heavy hero like Steel, Richter, or Morn to simply stop the opponent from playing the video game for 3 business days straight while your hero unloads all up in him. And I mean that with full Diddy.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
The support tip to go along here is to please, for the love of God, stop playing damage supports. Unless you're playing with a friend and you're very well coordinated, picking Morgish, Faye, Wraith, or any other weird ass damage style support is most likely going to get you smoked by any halfway decent team. ADCs, like I mentioned before, are extremely fragile and require good positioning in order to maximize their kits. Some heroes like Twin Blast and Kira have a little extra mobility if you lack in that department, and offer a dash to quickly reposition if you get into a tight spot. There are harder hitting but less mobile ADCs in Murdoch, Sparrow, Revenant, and others that usually have at least one way of giving yourself just a little bit of separation when needed. Ideally though, you're going to want to be leaning into the rest of your team, especially the support, to keep you alive in fights and provide peel when necessary. You should almost always be prioritizing the ADC in every single team fight, because they have the ability to shred the entire team in a matter of seconds if you don't. In that same regard though, you should also be expecting the enemy to do the same, and again, plan accordingly. This honestly goes for every role though. It infuriates me, and I'm sure many others, when the front line just dives into the fight and spams all their abilities, ignoring you while you become the new star member of Casting Couch. Mid lane is where the mages roam and duke it out. While also being the most popular lane, expect to get many visits from all lanes of the map at all times, literally always. Well, you're just playing team deathmatch now. Because of that, you're going to want to pick somebody that has high mobility or utility and keep unwanted advances away. You're also going to want somebody that has a very fast wave clear potential and burst damage. Obvious notables here are Morgish, Gideon, Gadget, and Faye. Your responsibilities are a secondary source of high damage with a splash of utility and a good mid lane pick, but obviously, because of that, you're usually erased from existence simply by being sneezed on. A quick tip here is to build around the hero that you picked. If this is a long-range poke hero like Gadget or Howie, build stuff like Soulbinder or Combustion. While if it's a more bursty style hero like Countess, Morgish, or Gideon, build items like Noxia, Megacosm, and Tainted Scepter to maximize your burst potential. Crunch, Greystone, and Grux are 3 staple off-lane menaces that you're likely to play with and against. But outside of them, you'll likely want a bruiser-style melee hero who brings some good staying power, while also being able to output some decent damage. One big issue I see a lot of players in the lower rank run into is playing against a ranged offlaner, because they usually struggle to understand power spikes and get shut down early, leading to the offlaner being able to snowball and appear more effective than it really should be. If you do end up playing against a ranged offlaner, you need to play passive. This means don't even bother trying to get last hits except on siege minions for the first 6 levels. Your opponent will outlevel you like this and have a small advantage, but once you get your first item and your ultimate, as long as they haven't gotten a kill off you as well, it should be enough for you to turn it around on them. Your first item should always either be Crystalline Curious or Miss Meadow Buckler if you're facing a magic-based hero like Morgish or Iggy, while Gaia's Greaves and Tainted Guard are good for physical-based heroes like Murdoch. So that about covers most of the fundamentals of the pregame lobby and the draft. If you're going to play ranked, you should always be ready and willing to play any hero in any role. Obviously you can have a preference, and if you're especially good with someone in a certain role, by all means go for it, but that's up to you and your team to work out. Sometimes you'll get some salty kid who wants to fight you for your role and he gets it. It's just part of the game, buddy. So always be ready to switch things up if necessary, and I promise you'll find more fun and success with the game. So the other most important aspect of countering your opponent is counter building, and since this video is getting to be a little bit longer than I wanted, I'm going to be a little bit quicker here and just cover the most important, starting with the tainted items. In fact, I can make this really short and sweet. If you see them pick any of these heroes, and I mean any of them, build tainted. If you see a single one of any of these items on an opponent, build tainted. In other words, always build tainted. There is a tainted item for nearly every situation in the game, and while it doesn't seem flashy on paper, which is why so many people in the lower ranks don't build it, they are arguably the single most important items in the game. Go with Tainted Guard if you're a tanky hero that's going to be auto-attacked a lot, Tainted Scepter if you're a mage, Tainted Totem if you're a healer, Tainted Trident if you're an assassin, and Tainted Charm for melee tank supports. The other category of items that you're nearly always going to want to look at are penetration items, giggity, or armor shred depending on what you're playing. Items like Demolisher on ADCs, the Perforator on physical-based damage-focused heroes like Kalari and Fang Mao, and if you're playing a more bruiser style hero, you'll want things like Basilisk and or Citadel on physical heroes. And then for bruiser mages like Quang or Shinbi, Orb of Enlightenment or Worldbreaker are always solid go-tos. The recommended builds for most heroes are usually pretty solid, but certainly not in every situation, and especially not at the higher ranks. Don't be afraid to think outside the box with your builds. People have come up with some pretty crazy combos that lead to items that you never think of having to get nerfed. The last thing I want to talk about when it comes to building, and it kind of ties into the first subject we talked about, in building to your character's strengths, well, this is a huge part in finding success in Predecessor. If you go into a ranked game thinking a full damage phase is going to help your team, yes, I'm talking to you, Fike, you're going to be in for a hard time. Same goes for Crit Greystone, full Lifesteal Chimera, attack speed and Onyx Quiver ADC spam, etc. Build around what your character is good at and you'll find more success. There are definitely some other smaller aspects that you can use to counter your opponent, such as micro plays like baiting their abilities and then retaliating, and probably a handful of other small things that are skipping my mind right now, but I don't want to ramble on too much. If you made it this far into the video, you're a real one. Now go ahead and drop a comment on who your most hated matchup is for Science. If you'd like another video on this subject, or need clarification on anything I brought up throughout the video, please just feel free to leave a comment. I love helping the new players out, so if there's anything you'd like me to cover in the future, I'm all ears. I'm adding weekend nights to my streaming schedule as well finally, so if you want to come hang out and watch me live, I always love chatting about all things Predecessor. I'm live Wednesday starting at 11 Eastern, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday starting whenever the baby goes down, usually aiming for around 7. And finally, the link to the Discord and all my socials are below. Always appreciate the support there as well. You guys are the best, and I hope to see you in the next one.